You're watching Sunday Morning Matters on KC24, your local election headquarters.
It was dramatic and unprecedented. Fresno Unified School Board members censuring one of their own, and it was unanimous. Trustee Terry Sladek, seemingly unfazed by this, says he's going to fight it and not resign. So let's welcome in our panel for this week. One of the most well-respected journalists here in the Valley and Fresno State's Executive Director of Media and Public Trust, Jim Boren. Also very popular KMJ political host, Philip Teresi. And Fresno Unified School Board Trustee Keisha Thomas is here. Well, welcome all.
Well, thank you.
You heard the superintendent, so guess what, Keisha? You knew you were up first, right? Wednesday night's meeting, it may have opened up maybe a bigger can of worms here, meaning this. Are you concerned Trustee Sladek will not comply with the censure? And what you guys said last night is going in one ear and out the other.
You know how kids are impulsive and you tell them don't touch? That's him. He will touch. He will be impulsive and he will do what he always does.
Do you think you guys, I know that you said during this Wednesday night meeting and afterwards, you think that it wasn't enough. I asked Superintendent Nelson, does it warrant a recall? And he says it's up to the voters. You say?
I say absolutely. Absolutely. When you don't have the best interest of kids at heart, it warrants a recall. And what I meant by I wish I could do more, I wish I could recall him. I wish I could play a part in that. And I'm worried that they may not get enough votes.
Jim, I'll come to you now. The board, did they get it right? It was unanimous here. There's a couple of investigations out there. We know that over 6 figures has been spent on investigations into Trustee Sladek on this. But is he being treated unfairly here?
Well, Alexon, I've watched this school board for 40 years in my journalism career. I've never seen anything like this. He's isolated himself. He won't give an inch. I think that the board was pushed into a corner. They had to act, and they did. He's going to act in the way that he probably will act, given the pattern that we see. So we're going to have a stalemate. Unfortunately, this is really taking the focus off what we ought to be doing, is educating kids. And I know that that they're all committed to doing that. But when you're worrying about this issue, you can't figure out some of the challenges that we have in this district.
Philip, I'll ask you this question because you're a smart man. I'm trying to figure out if there is a defense for Terry Sladek.
Is there a defense for it? Well, the defense is that Sladek wants to apply some kind of acceptable minimum standard. I really believe that he has an idea in his head of where he wants to take the school district. The problem is we've got a man who got 30% of the vote, who has been censured by the board, who is involved in 3 high-profile public incidents that he's inserted himself into, and he's cost the school district $114,000. That's 2 teachers' salaries. How much better off would the students be with a trustee who is a little bit more of a go-along, get-along guy, a little bit less of a visionary, with 2 more teachers in the classroom?
And Keisha, you were there during the meeting, and you heard from Stacey Williams, the local advocate, and she says, talking to Terry Sladek, you were sent in by Bob to be this dog to attack kids. Is that an accurate assessment?
Absolutely not. Stacey Williams is doing what she feels is right. However, she's not doing it with all the information. Initially they thought that we could do something to get rid of Terry, which we all know that's not true. So educating people is the first step. And secondly, I don't think you can quite say that Bob did that, because that's not Bob's role. And Bob definitely would never send anybody in to hurt a dog, as a dog to hurt kids.
Well, let me ask you this, because, there is that question out there, and I think a lot of people are thinking this.
Okay.
Does the superintendent shoulder any of the responsibility, even though he is the employee of the board?
I'm going to say no, and let me tell you why. I've spoken to Terry. Other people on the board have spoken to Terry and tried to get him to back off a little bit and stop making these unacceptable choices. Bob's spoken to him and tried to get him to back off. Now, I supported Terry. He was my work husband. I love Terry. And initially his vision was to go out there, uncover some of the things that need to be fixed, which I was totally behind. All of us were. If you're going out there to do great things for the school district and you think that they're not taking care of jobs, we're behind you 100%. Whatever you uncover, but don't harm kids.
Jim, your thoughts on that same question?
Well, I mean, I think clearly he needs to figure out what he wants to be. Does he want to be a trustee and get things done? And he needs to now come back into the circle of trustees, or not. If he wants to fight with the other, with the superintendent and with the other 6 board members, he's not going to be able to get the things done that he wants to do if for his area and for the school district in general. You know, the stunning part to me is that he does not give an inch and any willingness to find any blame on his side, and it's everybody else's, you know, against him. And in politics, it's give and take anyway. Even if you're right, you've got to give a little bit.
Philip, I'll come to you. I'll let you punctuate this because when you think about it, Terry says, you know, he had that iconic line, if you will, because it is resonating somewhat. You're rearranging some of the lawn chairs on the Titanic. That insinuates he is going to drop some bombshells.
I have a very hard time reconciling a man with his resume, with his distinguished, especially his career his career in the military, and his total inability to abide the chain of command and to follow the rules that have been set out in front of him. And it's disappointing because I agree with you. I saw a tremendous amount of potential there. Somebody who was going to crack a whip, and what I'm seeing is a guy who's kind of spiraling out of control.